Hello. Okay, I don't know if I'll be able to get the intro and the outro to work, so as usual, if I have any, I don't think I'll have any relevant pictures this time really but usually if I have some relevant pictures, I'll put them in the community part of the thing where the photos can go. Instead of just jumping straight into clothes, I wanted to do, I know I'm just wearing a boring white shirt right now. Uh, I need to kind of dirty some white stuff up so I can wash my socks. Um, I thought I would talk about some movies that kind of have not necessarily nautical themes, but have boats kind of in them or around. So, like for example, like here we have Johnny Depp in the early '60s playing, the famous alcoholic journalist. But he works for a guy who has a boat, and of course that guy is just he's wearing a dress shirt with his shorts. He's just, he's not specifically dressing in any particular way to go out on his boat. Depp is wearing here, a blue blazer and a blue shirt, kind of similar to one of the ones I'm going to show later, which is also not intended to be nautical at all. He's just in Puerto Rico and it's hot there because it's the tropics, and so he's, you know, dressed more casually than he would be in, say, New York City, allegedly, or whatever. Then we have Failure to Launch, of course, where, Matthew McConaughey sells boats. So for part of the movie, he kind of dresses. And she buys a pair of boat shoes that she says are cute. And he's got like a nautical theme in his bedroom more than he really has in his wardrobe, though. He's just kind of dressed basically casual through the whole thing. They do a lot of sporting activities, and they have different get-ups for when they go to play paintball and when they go to do this and that. So not necessarily, a total sailing vibe. And then of course we have Wedding Crashers, where there is a scene where they all go out sailing, and similar to Failure to Launch, it's a much, shorter scene than it should be. There should be a lot more boat stuff in this movie. Instead, there's a lot more wedding stuff for some reason. But when they do go out on the boats, miraculously, they do have very boaty outfits. Luke Wilson wearing, kind of a very stripy boaty shirt. Then going back to the 90s, of course, we have Captain Ron. Nobody dresses nautical in this movie at all. The whole thing takes place on a boat practically, except Martin Short mostly dresses like a yuppie tourist, like what I was talking about, more beach vibe in the last video. And of course, Captain Ron, what I was talking about, you don't want your nautical look to verge into hippie bum territory instead, where it's past beach. He's not dressed like a captain or a boat guy at all. He's totally dressed like he's on vacation, even more than the people who are paying him to be a boat captain. So then next we have an, in my opinion, underrated movie, Message in a Bottle. Kevin Costner is a boatwright who basically dresses like a casual yuppie, same as almost Martin Short in the previous movie. And there's even a scene where, the kid in the movie is disappointed because he, doesn't show up with a sea bag and an eye patch or whatever. I forget the exact line. It doesn't matter. And then, of course, going back to, I'm not going to do every single boat movie ever made, so two more. Going back to, of course, the 80s, One Crazy Summer, which also should take place more on boats than it actually does, but it's pretty funny. And they dress boaty kind of for part of it, but the bad guys in this one, it's kind of the basic 80s slobs versus snobs movie. The bad guys, dress a little more yachty, and the slobs dress a little more slobby. But nobody really dresses very overtly boaty to my memory, because at the end they do this regatta, and I think they're wearing actually bowling shirts, not really boat shirts. Not sure exactly what those are supposed to be, or if those are supposed to be Jamaican ska band from 1962. I'm not exactly positive. But they all have a matching outfit at least. Yay. And it's kind of bright, beachy colors with the teal and the orange. Again, danger of becoming too clowny, danger of becoming too pastel-y. Use your best judgment. I went over all of this in the previous video. Most of the clothes in this video are going to be very similar to the clothes in the last video. We've just changed the color schemes very slightly. And then, of course, we have Summer Rental, where, you know, I'd almost love a rewrite here where they don't make Richard Crenna the bad guy because he's the best dressed guy in the whole movie with his navy blazer and his stereotypical, you know, kind of, well, these are the Greek fisherman style, not the yachty style hats. So yeah, if you want to look nautical, definitely dress like Richard Crenna. Don't wear a hockey jersey, and yeah, you'll be on the right track. Okay, fine. I've also realized that when I turn away from the camera, it doesn't really pick me up very well, so I'm trying to be better about that. I talked about headwear in one of the videos. I think it was the second one. It might more than the third one. Don't really have that much to add. Like I said, I've got a couple of the Greek fisherman style things here that it borders on cheesy. You might look a little childish if you don't pull it off correctly. It's hit or miss. Or you can get like a patriotic, here's one in navy, or here's one in white. Again, red, white, and blue almost always works for nautical. You know, a baseball hat being definitely a downgrade from, you know, a traditional sailing hat. But personally, again, I like something that covers my ears more if I know I'm going to really be out in the sun. But a lot of wide brim hats just look kind of funky if you're, you know, out on the town or whatever. I found these a couple years ago. They still are around. It's got kind of like a little boat flag thing going on here. And so I could get away with, this one's kind of orangey, salmony. I could get away with this with some of the red outfits though, maybe. Whereas again, this goes with a lot of my powder blue kind of stuff. But of course, for nautical look, we typically like navy better than powder blue. Again, powder blue by default became more of a surfy look. So I wish they would come out with that hat in a darker blue, but whatever. And then, like I said, something like this is already too dark for me to wear in the daytime. It's supposed to be 100 degrees here by Saturday or something. And if you're in Texas, you're miserable right now. So in this fabric, again, decent for warm weather, but not great for hot weather. So I'm already kind of folding up anything this dark in a shirt and putting it away. You can still get away with something like this. I really, you know, this is a nice crisp, clean look to it. You know, white and navy. Again, we're going for total contrast. We don't want anything too mushy. Slightly mushy, we can kind of get away with. Now this is a linen, but it's almost a midnight blue with a white, and it's kind of a slubby look. You could still get away with this for a nautical look. This shirt is almost too mushy. You know, it almost wants something a little more crisp. This is actually a 2-layer thing, so it's better in spring and autumn than summer. It's a little bit too thick. Again, I'm wearing this because literally I'm going to do laundry later. Again, something like this is basically just a long sleeve t-shirt, but before I showed the stripy stuff that was more blue and less white, and obviously you can get ones that are more white and less blue. And I literally showed the exact, this is the JCPenney one in the heavier material. I don't know if you can kind of see that texture. But again, more white, less blue. And this is almost too thick to wear already. But in the evening or whatever. So over here, I'm going to shift real quick. Actually, wait, before I do that, again, I had talked about the pants. I don't really want to talk about the pants just yet, but I'll talk about this pair of pants and that pair of pants first. In the previous video, I had said I had some really lightweight powder blue ones. Like I said, these are super faded. They're very old. I don't know what brand they are. They will probably not last through the rest of this summer, but I'm going to wear them anyway. Super lightweight cotton. Very pastel, though, you know. Very, very lightweight, very comfortable, very summery, but maybe a little bit faded for a true nautical look, but you know, they're almost done anyway, so it doesn't matter. Whereas these, on the other hand, are kind of a drawstring thing, and they're, I think, a linen blend. These are almost too beachy to be nautical, too. I had these hemmed. They were more of kind of, I think, like meant to be a gathered bottom, but with a cuff on them, and I ironed them. They can look okay with a sport coat. They're not terrible with an unstructured kind of look, but they are bumping right up against with, again, classic navy coloration. So if you wore this together, you know, it almost looks like you're trying to have a sailing uniform from, you know, World War II more than. And then, of course, I've found linen shirts that are, you know, almost match it, almost identical. It's not quite blue. It's not quite gray. Again, this shirt, I don't know if this is 100% linen or if it's linen cotton blend, but, you know, a nice lightweight summer shirt, but again, not necessarily as dressy as these. Definitely more casual. That kind of on the verge, office casual, beach / kind of same as the kind of what I was talking about with that Rum Diary. And I'll show that shirt now before we move on. Again, seersucker. This one has the same gingham pattern as the one Depp is wearing in the film, but of course he's not trying to look nautical at all, but this does still have a real nautical casual vibe to it. So similar to that, I'll come back to pants in a minute. These are these Tommy Bahamas? Yeah, Tommy Bahamas, and these are some kind of Havana herringbone. I don't know, I got these on sale last year or the year before, and silk and cotton blend, but definitely dressier. A decent texture for a sport jacket. Again, maybe not the ones you want to wear on the boat. These might be too dressy for the boat. Again, I think I had them cuffed. I don't think they came cuffed. So it kind of depends on, you know, how nautical you're trying to look and how nautical you're trying to be. They can be two separate things. Most of the shorts and pants I find, I say white all the time, and I do have some white ones. Most of the white ones, though, when I say white, I mean off-white. Like, this is definitely more of an ivory than a true white. And these are, I don't know, Hagar chinos, or you could call these khakis maybe, but they're not as tan as a true khaki. These or Dockers or, you know, any kind of brand is usually fine. I have these cargo ones. Again, I did a whole spiel about cargo pants in the previous video, but these is LL Bean. I wrote them a nasty letter saying, look, we don't necessarily want everything to be cargo pants. Please, you know, please bring back the slacks or the chinos or whatever we want to call them with the pleated front ones. They have ignored me. I don't know why. You know, again, you can get away with a cargo pant, and again, definitely not a true white. This white shirt isn't even as stark as it could be, and you can see that this is definitely more ivory. But ivory, you can get away with it because it's not too mushy, because true white, you will maybe stain, or it's going to, you know, show dirt, or it's going to become kind of dingy anyway. So if, you know, that's a little more versatile, even though it's a little less nautical. Your results, again, may vary. And then once again, the rugby shirt, very bold, very white. You could wear this with white pants, and then you would want them to be probably white pants instead of ivory pants. So there's that. And then, of course, I have this kind of short sleeve thing with the little stripes here. It's a little more nautical than maybe that gingham. And just a different version of a polo shirt. Again, I'm not Mr. Polo shirt guy per se. I prefer camp shirts most of the time, but I still buy them. This shirt I talked about in the previous video about, you know, I have shorts that match this exactly, and sometimes I'll wear it together if I, you know, if I don't mind looking a little bit like I'm trying to sell ice cream or something. Whereas I would say this is too dark, even though it has white in it, and it's, I don't know, it's a JCPenney, and it has kind of flat pockets similar to any other blue collar shirt. The reason I like this one though is you can't tell, it's such a super lightweight weave that it's actually like thinner and lighter than this, so the air goes right through this. So even though it's dark, I actually do wear this in summer quite a bit. Similarly though, we have the seersucker, or no, this is the linen. Sorry, the linen is the other one I showed. The gingham one was the seersucker. This is another LL Bean one with, again, a powder blue kind of, very light. Again, if I wear this with those super bright blue trousers, it's a little bit light, but it only needs to last one more summer, so fine. So going down the list, if you don't know what seersucker looks like, that's more classic seersucker. I don't know if I necessarily consider seersucker pants nautical. Seersucker shorts, maybe. It's another one of those kind of gray areas because, again, it's very light, it's very pastel-y, but it's also cool and nice in hot weather. So, but a seersucker suit is a suit. Like, it's not going to look terribly nautical. It's going to look like you're a Southern lawyer, you know. Whereas something like this still can get away with that. Something like this, even better, bolder, a little more contrast. And something like this kind of splits the difference. So like I said, we're going with a lot more white though, a little bit more powder and royal blue in some of these, a lighter blue, not necessarily navy all the time, but that's my main difference from like I said, the previous. A lot of these are going to be similar to what I showed in the previous video. Sometimes I think like yellow like this is maybe acceptable. Definitely good summer colors, but I don't know. You'd have to really pair it correctly to make it nautical. Because again, the blue is a little bit light here. The yellow is lemon. So again, it's not terrible, but it's not necessarily going to be automatically nautical unless you really, you know. Again, like I talked about in the previous, here we got a short sleeve with a camp shirt, but here we've got much more of an aqua teal sea foam, so we're a little more beachy. Whereas the powder blue, a little more true boaty, but nothing will beat white. And this is just short sleeve white linen. So got that. And then linen collar shirt. The collar is still a little bit dress collar. Like I said, it's kind of hit or miss what style collar you want to get. Like I said, I haven't really broken out my white clothing yet. I'm still wearing more blue stuff. Just a long sleeve Henley that I got just to have. Similarly, another one of those kind of surfer skater kind of shirts. And a polo shirt that's way more white than the red and blue ones that I showed last time. Now, again, this is not, I don't think this is that performance fabric stuff. I think this is just a regular cotton knit one. That's all of those. And then, of course, t-shirts, again, with boat pictures. This one's a little bit more kind of rustic almost than I don't know, I guess, the stark. Again, if we're not trying to look like a Navy uniform, we can break it up a little bit, but I would call that a little more beachy than even boaty. And this one's totally Caribbean inspired, so it's but it's still a boat. so you can kind of get away with it, as opposed to, Star Spangled Banner kind of 4th of July kind of thing. And of course, my thumbnail, the color block thing as always. And okay, so we're at 20 minutes already. So that was quite a bit longer than I thought it would be. But if anybody has any questions, as usual, let me know.